So it's my great pleasure to be here on this panel and to facilitate this conversation about education. As we've heard, it has been a thread that's come through the panels already, and particularly around the idea of training teachers in trauma-informed practices. And so my colleagues and I at QUT are leading the trauma-aware education study area. I'm from the Faculty of Creative Industries, Education and Social Justice, and within that we're looking at integrating all of our pre-service teaching programs as well as post-grad programs for current educators in trauma-informed practice. So we'll hear from different people today of how that can be part of the system that we're trying to integrate and intersecting with those experiencing housing and homelessness different issues. So we know from lots of research around ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, that these experiences can be very disruptive, and particularly without the support that a young person may need to come out of that, the ACEs can generate this cycle of disadvantage. However, with some support in the right places at the right time, that cycle can be disrupted. So our ACE score is not set in stone. It's not the destiny. So we need to think about designing programs in a way that provides a buffer or a protective factor around the experience of adversity. And as we know, adversity can take many forms, and a lot of them intersect with housing, poverty, instability, exposure to violence, abuse, neglect, all of those things that have that intersection. And of course, we know also from the body of research around neuroscience and attachment that when a young person is in that stress response or experiencing adversity, the fight, flight, freeze response we've heard about here, their ability to learn is compromised. So how do we create and design a program within education that helps young people to be able to access their higher order thinking and able to learn and to go beyond that stress response? So sitting with me here are some wonderful people who are running such programs. So I'm going to ask each of you just to share a little bit about your program, how it's been designed with this kind of background in mind. So Luke, we might start with you, please.
Sure, thanks, Lyra. And if I could just say thanks for the invitation from Lady Musgrave Trust for being here today. I really appreciate it. And all the panellists who have spoken this morning are just brilliant. Took copious notes, so I really appreciate all of the wisdom and the sharing of all of that knowledge so far today, so thank you. My name's Luke Baker. I'm the manager of FamilyLinQ for the Bryan Foundation. The Bryan Foundation is a philanthropic organisation. We've talked a little bit about philanthropic organisations. We're partnering with the Department of Education on a new program or approach for Queensland called FamilyLinQ. So FamilyLinQ is a integrated school-based hubs model. So this is a new approach for schooling in Queensland, which brings together education with health, with family support, with early childhood development programs, with training and education around employment and community development, all within the platform of the school. So there's two demonstration projects, if you like, which have been established, only recently opened. So one at Kingston State School, which opened in August last year. So it's just to give you an idea, it's a brand new physical building that the department have built, and the Bryan Foundation operates. Has a really big open plan lounge room and open plan kitchen, play space. There are consultation rooms for visiting health professionals and other professionals, training rooms, meeting rooms, etc. So it's all about that soft entry, early access. And the second school is at Corinne, which is in Park Ridge. It's about 15 minutes south of Kingston. That's a brand new school which has just opened in January of this year. So very early days, but we're very excited about the opportunity that this new approach brings for education in Queensland, and where we might be able to grow this model in partnership with the department over the coming years, and work in partnership with communities that want to work in this integrated approach. We've heard from a lot of the speakers today about how siloed our service systems are, and we know that. So this is an attempt to bring all of that service system together so that it wraps around the family, and the families aren't the one that are trying to navigate these very complex and difficult to navigate systems. That's a brief snapshot.
Thank you, Luke. No, that's great. We'll hear more about your program soon. Stephanie, would you like to speak about your program?
Sure, thank you. Lyra, hi everybody. My name is Stephanie Blunt. I'm from the Y Queensland, and my role is Head of Wellbeing with the Y Schools program. So some people might know the Y more as YMCA, but we're now branded as the Y. And the Y Queensland works with people from the community across the lifespan. We have early childhood centres and over 75 outside school hours care services in South East Corner. And, they're backed by a really rigorous safeguarding children unit. So when we, become aware of a family that's in need of support, they can access that unit for staff to be able to create linkages, for people from the community. And that safeguarding unit works across all of our services as well. We also have a comprehensive suite of community centres throughout Brisbane, and some of those are funded through normal kind of community centre funding. And we also have a range of self-funded centres. Some of those are youth-focused, and some of those have a community focus. So the Y is very driven by our mission to support the community, and because of that we're really scrapping together bits of funding. The self-funded ones generate their own funds through hall hire and those sorts of things so that we can be there for the community. We do a lot of work with people who are in unstable accommodation, who might find themselves who are homeless at any time, who need a range of support, and we just try to be very creative so that we can step in that gap for them. At Mango Hill, for example, we have a beautiful community worker who not only generates funds for her to sustain her own existence really there. She has a community pantry and has lots of visitors there every week, and provides bits and pieces of support and case management as really to the extent that we can. And that pantry is sustained through donations from our beautiful community as well. So we also have affordable housing, and we're looking forward to, we're just about to break turf on a beautiful new affordable housing service in Mango Hill that will have homes for 50 women over 50 who find themselves homeless. And, I'm sure as lots of us in this room know, the fastest growing group of homeless people in the country. And all of us are really at risk of, becoming, who knows what circumstances might befall us. At any time, So this service is really critical for the Moreton Bay region to provide a home for women who find themselves homeless. And it links very well in that precinct with the bits of community work that are already happening there, the community service, and it's also one of our school campuses. So I'm here today to talk about education. So I primarily work with the Y Schools. So the Y Schools have 11 campuses across the southeast corner, one in Bundaberg. We are a special assistance high school. Again, special assistance education is the fastest growing sector in the nation, particularly in Queensland. And as we've heard today, it's so difficult for young people to be able to stay in the system when they're experiencing adversity. And, we really ask them to change and to show up in certain ways. And there's a lot of capacities and barriers really that exist there that we ask young people to overcome themselves in order to show up and be present and engage in education every day. And it's just not possible for everyone. So schools like ours, all of our students are outside of mainstream education, many of them not through their own choice. Whether it be through exclusion, sometimes systemic exclusion, sometimes they just can't manage to fit in that round hole, and it's just not a system that's for them. So we have nearly 1,000 students this year across all of our campuses. We have junior and senior. We offer national curriculum and pathway to QCE like all schools do, except that we have a lot of wraparound support. So all of our teachers are buddied up with youth workers, or I should say all of our young people are buddied up with youth workers, and they support in every class for our young people. And we have lots of counsellors, caseworkers and those sorts of things, and many beautiful teachers on our staff as well. So I'm sure you'll hear more about our education as we go through. But we're lucky to have recently hired Caitlin as well as a youth worker. Is that all right if I segue to Caitlin? So Caitlin has also been an advocate for the Foyer Foundation for Youth Housing, which is when I first met her. So I'll hand over to Caitlin.
And thank you. So, I'm actually very excited to announce I started at the Y School a couple of weeks ago. So I am at the Ipswich Junior Campus and I am loving it. My primary role is kind of just being there to support the kids throughout the day. The Y School offers lots of flexible approaches to learning, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more a bit later. So I'm just kind of there just to help young people re-engage with the work, re-regulate themselves, and also just a bit of co-regulation where they can learn to regulate themselves through flexible approaches, and then as they move on through to seniors, they will become more comfortable in being able to regulate themselves just by themselves using the approaches that we've taught them. Just being able to be there learning and growing with all these kids over the past couple of weeks has been amazing. Hopefully, if I'm back up here next year or in the next coming years, I'll be able to tell you guys more about my progress of joining the Y, but at the moment, it is only upwards from here.
Thanks, Caitlin. Thanks, Stephanie, too. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, let's move to a different program. Carolyn, would you like to speak about your program with the Micah project?
Carolyn, and I am the Hub Coordinator at our Wellspring Children and Families Hub in Hawthorn. The Hub provides a response for children and families experiencing adversity such as homelessness and domestic and family violence. But one of our, key programs to come out of the Hub is our early years program. And that consists of an on-site playgroup that families can come to the Hub and access. So it's kind of all-inclusive, that playgroup. We're also doing outreach playgroups to motels, and to give you a bit of a sense of why we would be doing that, it will help if you can understand about the volume of families that Micah's homeless and housing teams are currently supporting. So there are 278 families who are temporarily in crisis accommodation in motels, 535 children within those families, and 380 of those children are aged 5 years and under. So we have a team that takes playgroup out to the motels. One of the motels I twitch every time I go there because there's a sign up that says no playing. And if you are a true supporter of young children and the rights of the child, you know that a fundamental right of a child is the right to play, hence why that one has me twitching. So our playgroup, our girls are out there doing playgroup at these motels. Another feature of the early years program is our on-site trauma responsive early years care and education program, and that consists of a flexible hours childcare option 3 days a week in our purpose design space that we call Treehouse Magic. So it's a term program, and we're targeting the 3 to 5 age, particularly children that we know should be in prep this year and weren't, because next year they're going to be thrust into year 1. So we're really targeting those children from the motels to come to the centre 3 days a week to start an early education journey between now and the end of the year. Currently it's open to 3 to 5 year olds. We will be expanding to offer flexible care and to be able to offer care to infants and toddlers, and the flexible model would be where a parent may just need a day of care to attend a medical appointment or court. This is previously kind of known as occasional care, and if people have looked out there, there isn't much of this at all. and it's probably one of the biggest challenges or barriers to support workers being able to help families achieve goals is, it would just be go a lot smoother if the children had an option to be somewhere safe and supportive for them. Our early years program's been built around the belonging, being and becoming early years framework, and it combines an understanding of the neurosequential model of brain development so that we deliver flexible education and care for children who've experienced trauma. The Hub and the Early Years program have both been designed with the two-generation approach in mind. So we know the right support at the right time for families makes all the difference for parents and children to thrive and do well.
Thanks, Carolyn. Yeah. So important, and especially that early years, and we're capturing, right through. We've heard a high school example, early years, and I know let's move to Corinne now, who's got a different program again, once again supporting that educational piece for a different cohort. Yeah.
Hi everyone. I've been working for the Department of Education now for coming up to 20 years, and I've been working in this space of young, pregnant and parenting, mainly women. The program started a long time ago in the Red Bank Plains High School, and the department were looking at how can we get young mothers to stay engaged in education when they find out that they're pregnant, which was a great initiative, but we quickly realised that keeping them engaged in education during pregnancy wasn't the hard bit. It was re-engaging them after birth is the difficult bit, and also how our communities don't cater to our teen mums that are trying to look for accommodation, live independently, want to be educated, don't want to be separated from their children. And so there was a lot of complexities around how do we develop a program that could cater to the needs of young mums. And so luckily at the time I had a great principal, and we moved to the site of Ipswich State High School in partnership with Mission Australia, Communities for Children, who've been financial partners of the program for 12 years. And we couldn't do it without a community partnership like that. Because education, I'm always told that that's our core business. High schools, it's about education. It's not about what else is going on for that student. And schools are designed to focus on the student. They're not designed to focus on the students' additional needs that they may have. And so it's been a challenge. We've been at Ipswich High in our own alternative learning program that's on that site since 2016. It's been a great success, but it's always changing, and we're always looking at how we can stay current and look at the needs. And the needs have changed over the years. I particularly see those needs changing after being in the job for such a long time. And so we're constantly looking at how we can do business better and making it more of a one-stop shop and getting services to come to the student, meeting the students where they're at, supporting them with childcare. So we have free childcare on site, adjunct care. We have all the services that come to us. We run child health clinic with the health department. We have a lot of programs. We have DV counselling, a lot of programs which can't name off the top of my head, but we are always looking at what is it that these young families need. And so a couple of years ago we decided, after COVID, we had great success in developing a program online for young parents to continue with their learning. And we thought, well, why couldn't we roll this out to all parents across the state? So it's still in its infancy. It requires some money, some staffing, and a lot of work to really get out there and get young parents to get on the online platform to work. But we really want to offer this to dads as well. And so we're doing a lot of work on that at the moment, on the online program.
Excellent, yeah. And I think you can see already, we've got some really intentional programs here designed to really specifically address the challenges that some young parents as well as students themselves, and then from very early years right through to high school, and how we need to offer these different programs, because we all know that education provides that ladder out of disadvantage. No one needs convincing on that, but it's how we do that education piece. First of all, just getting children to schools, for example, is great, but it may not be enough if that school is not trauma-informed or is not versed in the ways to be able to recognise and support all the different circumstances and challenges that our young people have right from very early on all through high school, but also what about if they're an adult learner or they're a pregnant parenting learner as well. So my next question to the panel is, why is it so important that we provide flexible ways to engage with women and children in particular who may otherwise be left out of the system? And Caitlin, I'd like to throw to you to start with, just to share a bit of your experience as well, and leading into the current work that you're doing. Yeah.
Absolutely, I would love to start with this. So I think that my biggest experience in this would be my own lived experience with engaging with services, because I can confidently say that if those services did not provide flexible ways for me to engage, I would not be here talking to you all today, and I would not be a youth worker. I would not be in my role as a youth ambassador. I am not sure if I would actually be here at all, and that is something I say with complete confidence, because before the engagement with these services, my life was in absolute shambles. And I think one thing that I really would love people to start thinking of barriers like is young people and women facing barriers that we see every single day. They have never asked to be put in that position. They don't deserve to be put into that position. So why are we letting barriers that they don't ask for, they don't want that in their life, we're letting those barriers stop them from engaging with services that they deserve to be able to engage with? And in my role as a youth worker and a youth ambassador, one of the big things I've learned, and especially with my own story, is it only takes one person, one service, and one conversation to change the whole course of a young person or anyone's life, to be honest. And with my starting at the Y School, one of the things I love, and especially I think if myself or other young people had access to these services, they would be a lot further in life. I would have graduated, I think, if I had heard about a Y School. So being able to work in a service that I believe works so strongly is absolutely amazing. One thing I think that works amazingly is the flexible approaches we offer our young people for their learning and coming to school. One thing I love at school is our adjusted timetables. So it allows our young people who may have work, family responsibilities, child responsibilities, or just general well-being to still be able to engage with education without having that forced feeling, oh, I have to be there every day or I'm not going to be eligible, I'm not going to get... it creates that overwhelming pressure on a young person to think, oh, if I don't fit into this little box and I'm able to be there every day, I'm going to fail in life. And that is not the message that we should be sending. Another one I love are the learning adjustments for in-class. This really helps our students with diagnoses such as ADHD, anxiety, ASD, and a lot of undiagnosed barriers our young people also face. And especially in mainstream school, a lot of these behaviours can actually be seen as disruptive, and instead of getting support, they get the complete opposite, which is shunned away and less help than what they need. Some of the ones we implement at the Y School are things like chill passes for our kids who may reach a certain limit of time while doing work and go, oh, I just need to distract myself for a couple minutes. Often just going outside, go for a 5-minute walk, play some basketball hoops, and by the time they come back, a lot of these young people actually are able to re-regulate themselves and re-engage with work, which just proves that in mainstream school, when these kids are acting out or these behavioural issues are popping up, if we were just giving the right approach, they would fully be able to engage with the learning. It would not be seen as disruptive or a behavioural issue. Other things we offer as well are headphones for music. I work amazing with music. If I had had music in school, I see the difference between kids where they don't have their headphones on, they're kind of struggling to concentrate, to chucking those headphones on and suddenly they're smashing out paragraphs of English, when it's such a simple solution that schools could be using. Why aren't all schools using adjustments like this? Simple things like fidget toys to keep a young person's hands busy. Simple things like youth worker check-ins where I'm just able to go, hey, are you feeling okay to be doing the work today? And if a young person has something going on in their life that day, it's going to be a lot harder to get the work done. It's going to be a very clouded day for them. So having that support, being able to jump out of class, have a chat to myself or other youth workers, gets that pressure off their head, and they're able to re-engage with the work after that because they feel supported going back into school and with that work. And I think with the why, one thing I love is that every single student has an individual learning plan. This is not just adjustments we throw at every young person and go, here, you can utilise these. Each young person comes in for a meeting with their parents or carers, and we decide and we will go, which one will work best for you? How can we help your learning? So each young person has an education that's tailored to them, and it's working amazingly from what I've seen. And also, I grew up with a lot of friends. I never went to a Y school. I have lots of friends that went to Y schools, and they are going so far in life, and having that education has taken them so much further. I think, as a whole, it is so vital that we're providing women and young people flexible options for engagement, because everyone deserves an opportunity, no matter where they've come from. And they deserve to have the support to achieve their dreams, no matter where they've come from. No matter what barrier they're facing, no matter what background they've come from, no matter who they are, they deserve that opportunity. And I think it's shown time and time again that when given the right support, young people are able to flourish. Myself and hundreds of women and young people we meet and hear about every day are a testimony to the fact that flexible approaches to education and engagement of youth services work. Without these approaches, where would we be? Where would I be? And where are all the women and young people that we are leaving out by not providing these approaches further across all services?
Thanks, Caitlin. Thank you. And such a gift too, in terms of your lived experience and turning that around, and now you're in the classroom working with those youth who are relating to you, and you're so authentic in that support, I'm sure, because of your lived experience. So yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. Yeah. Great. So let's, we've heard about from the sort of the inside perspective of what happens within an education system or service that might be more flexible. But I'm going to throw to you, Luke, and let's talk about, well, how do education services such as yourself ensure that they're actually reaching those who are experiencing either homelessness or trauma, or, you know, how do we reach out to reach those people that need it?
You want me to go after that?
Yeah, please. I'm not going
That
to.
seems unfair. That was beautiful. Very passionate, and I love it. Thank you. So, and just to follow up on that theme, I think why it is so important, these different approaches, is that our mainstream approaches aren't working, or at the very least they're not working for the families that really need it. So that's the importance of it. And as you know, as Vic was saying earlier, you know, that one of the things that philanthropy can provide is take some of that risk off government in being able to do some of these different approaches. So we've been told that the FamilyLinQ initiative is the first time that a philanthropic organisation has partnered with the Department of Education. So that's pretty extraordinary. Yep. That it has taken however many years that the Department of Education has been in existence. So, and it has meant that we've been able to push the boundaries of what can happen on a school site. The benefits from my perspective in terms of engaging families are that families are there from a primary school perspective. Families are there already. This is a platform where families are visiting once or twice a day, spending time, engaging hopefully engaging in their child's education, developing networks, etc. And what the FamilyLinQ initiative is all about is utilising the school as that community platform to be able to engage with those families who are looking to engage, who are needing services, supports, opportunities, activities. So it is such a simple idea to provide, you know, those wraparound services and supports and opportunities within that one setting within the school, and such a good idea and hard to do as well.
I can imagine.
At the same time, because as we've talked about, the service systems are so fragmented and so isolated that bringing them together in the same building is the easy part. Helping everyone to integrate and wrap around families is the hard part.
Yeah,
And we've got a long way to go.
lots of work to
But,
do. Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
But-
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And I think I think I've prepared way too many questions for the time I have. But I did want to touch on something that it's been in the back of my mind, and I know it'll be across all programs here, is this really important work, the thinking, the innovation around that what these different programs offer. But I'd really love to hear from the panel about how do we look after the people who are actually doing this work? Because day in, day out, I mean, just being a teacher alone in a mainstream school, let alone those with, maybe it's better in other schools, but it's really difficult work when you bring in some of the trauma responses that are playing out within our classrooms, when we bring in the parents and the community responses around a hub such as, whether it's a designated hub like Luke's been talking about, or just the schooling environment in general, it puts a lot of pressure on the staff to be able to do this well and to be able to be offer that experience of co-regulation as well. And I think when we bring it back to the adults in the room and the adults needing to be regulated well enough to be able to help someone who's dysregulated, that's a really important piece. And I know that we'll all have some thoughts here, but maybe Steph, briefly you could touch on that.
Yes, you're right. It's hard everywhere. You know, it's hard in mainstream schools. I'm sure in many of our services, it's difficult work that we do out there every day. And I want to pick up on, as Cindy mentioned earlier, trauma training for teachers, you know, is absolutely essential. We need to equip our staff to understand what's going on. And I think we need to really focus on shifting our mindset from thinking wellbeing is some sort of bolt-on side thing, and that we can just educate, you know, just work on just this education piece. We need to think holistically of our young people. When kids come to school and they're in survival mode and they're living in survival mode, they can't access that smarter part of their brain. They can't even begin to think about being creative, problem solving, decision making. They have all sorts of things going on for them, which we see as Caitlin said, bad behaviour, non-compliance, all of those things. And actually what they need is some understanding. They need us to understand how to read that behaviour as a language. It's a social emotional language where they're in survival mode and they're showing us that they're not okay. And as educators, you know, we've heard a number of times, it is a critical place where we have children and families that access us every day, where we can provide that support, helping our young people through relational approaches, through understanding, as you mentioned, I think, Carolyn, the neurosequential model, you know, knowing that the survival part of the brain is dominating. And so we need to really focus on our current knowledge around neuroscience and understand that you know, we have to work holistically with children, and this is all part of education. Educating our children, helping them grow, develop, be able to cope in the world of tomorrow. We can't just extrapolate maths and English and think I only want to focus on that. You know, so shifting the whole sector through education, through supporting our teachers with training. And you know what, we need to make it okay for our teachers to tap out and say, I'm struggling, I need support in this moment right now. And, you know, I'm a huge advocate of having supervision for all of our teachers as well. They need someone to go and talk about what they're experiencing, what they're doing, gets their own support strategies. And, you know, many of our teachers, our staff have our own trauma. We have our own stuff that we're dealing with. You know, the Australian Childhood Maltreatment Study showed nearly 44% of children today, young people today, have been witnesses to domestic violence. Nearly half of kids out there. So that's our staff's kids as well. That's our, you know, our colleagues, our people around us. So how are we supporting them to also be not okay sometimes, you know? So I think supervision and support in schools, it's not enough to just say, here's the phone number for EAP, go away and take care of yourself. We actually have to give time, space, genuine support, and put some dollars behind it as well, so that we can have good supervisors, so social emotional supervisors. If you're out of the social work or health field, you will know when I say supervision, I mean support for me. to go to as staff members.
Yeah, so important, Steph. Yeah, thank you. And I think it's a whole. There's lots of systems intersecting here, and lots of wraparound support that we need for everyone in those different pieces of the system. I want to throw to you, Carolyn, just briefly, just to talk about some, like we've heard, is some of the difficulties, I guess, in terms of doing this work. It is emotionally complex. It is, there's many pieces here, and so I'm just wondering if you could speak to a little bit about some of the potential barriers to that success, but also some solutions that you've found within your work as well.
Yeah, the constraints and barriers are so many for programs like this. I think even just with, the whole service system and its fragmentation, and, we need services to be visible. We need them to be accessible, and so many aren't. And it's wonderful and amazing, and we have a hub that's a location, but we know a lot of people can't access that. So we've had to innovate and take it to places that people are and build that trust and relationship, with the view that then we've weaved some magic there and we get them to trust enough to come to our space or to come out of where they are to access a service. Of course, availability as well. Anyone working in the service sector at the moment knows that there's just so many wait lists for everything. And I guess, when demand outstrips supply, we do know that we have a huge problem. Cost is kind of the elephant in the room. Early interventions and programs that are there and that are long-term and sustainable and are available for people to tap in and out of as they need to on a kind of bumpy road to thriving. Cost and funding is, I guess, a huge barrier. But I would argue every single day of the week that the cost of not funding programs that come in early like this is far greater, because we know the lifelong impact from the ACEs research. We know that this stuff carries on and continues that cycle. There are ways we can overcome the barriers. I think joined up, integrated, collaborative work, never feeling comfortable in your work, because if you're feeling comfortable, something's gone wrong. You've got to always have that little bit of discomfort. But there are solutions out there, and I think it's just, pulling together and coordinating. And some of the stuff that was touched on with that first panel about all of those bigger cogs up above within government and systems, that's really kind of the start point, and always listening to the voice of lived experience, because that's who knows what is needed at any kind of point in time. So we can't ever lose sight of that. And obviously for me, a passion is the voice of the child. If we could all really value early childhood as laying this amazing foundation for people to live to their potential, I think we'd be doing a lot better. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. And I think I'm getting the vibe we need to leave it there. And lovely last words. Thanks, Carolyn. I think lived experience, we know, is so powerful. And yes, if we could absolutely start putting more into that early childhood space, because that's, growing from there. So thank you all, and it's wonderful.